Hello, everybody. It's Stephen here for the Idiot Quilter. Welcome to my weekly episode. This is episode 148 for January the 4th, 2022. Happy New Year to everybody. I hope you had a good, fun, and safe New Year's Eve this year. And I hope you're looking forward to 2022. I think we're all looking forward to it because we're hoping for the best, right? And let's hope, yes, this will be the year that we can get back to normal. But we still can always get back to our quilting, can't we? So, speaking of which, let's take a look at a couple of the projects I am working on right now. So I'm just going to switch over my screen. And this is called Little Town, and there's a copy of the downloadable pattern. This is not a free pattern. I did buy this one, but it was relatively inexpensive. And it's by Chelsi Stratton Designs. And Chelsi Stratton is the daughter to Sherry McConnell, who, well, both of them actually put out a YouTube video called The Quilting Life. So you've probably heard of one or both of these ladies before. They are fabric designers, and this is one of Chelsi's designs. Now, I had said, I think in my last video or two, that I'm sick of Christmas. I have finished all my Christmas projects. Time to move on. Guess what I'm doing? My first quilt of 2022 is a Christmas quilt. But when I saw this design, it was about the week before Christmas. No time really to put it together in time for Christmas. So I bought the pattern, I downloaded it, and I decided, I'm going to work on it now in January, and it'll be done for Christmas. I love quilts that have little houses on them. I have made one before. I think it was a Missouri Star Quilt company pattern. And I think I did a video. No, I know I did a video because I had some problems with that pattern, and I talked about them in one of my episodes. But this one appealed to me. I thought it was kind of cute. And it basically, you can make it with scraps, because it's a scrappy type of quilt. So each house can be a little different. You can make them all the same as if you wanted to. You can do almost anything with this pattern, and that's what it appealed to me. But I'm going to say more about this pattern a little later on in the vlog. I just want to show you how far I've gotten with it. Not very far. I have made 2 of the houses. I need to make 10, and I've made 2 of the Christmas trees with the stars on top, and I need to make 10 of those as well. But I wanted to see what the houses were like first before I started to get fully committed to making this quilt. So the first house, right on the far left, that's the one I made first, following her instructions. Pattern instructions are fairly clear. Do read them carefully, though. She does explain her short forms that she uses, because there was one, SNF. I wasn't sure what that was, but since then I figured it out. Switch and flip, which to me really doesn't make a lot of sense as a descriptor, but I think it's a fairly common technique in the quilting world. So anyways, I digress, as I often do. So yeah, I'm using actually fat quarters that I have for this. It is fat quarter friendly. Actually, it's fat eighth friendly, and it says that on the pattern. But it does take time to make each of these little houses. They look fairly simple, but they are simple, but there's a lot of little pieces in those. The trees go together a little bit faster because basically, if you have a jelly roll that's in greens, you can fly through those pretty fast. But yeah, so it will take a little while to get this done. But once I get into the routine, after you've done the first couple of blocks, then you can start doing chain piecing and putting it together on an assembly line kind of format. And later today, what I intend to do is get all my fabric cut for each of the rest of the houses. And that'll make my life a little easier, well, in terms of speed. So yeah, I think this is going to be fun. But it is my first quilt of the new year. Now, another quilt that I have picked out my fabrics for, but I haven't really got into the cutting of it yet. It's a Bargello, but it's a very modern quilt in its appearance. It's called Making Waves. I got this free pattern from Fabric Gallery. Art Gallery Fabric. That's the name. Get the right name. Some time ago, because you know how I like to shop online for patterns, and if they're free, even better. And I have reviewed this pattern way back sometime in the past on an episode. But now I'm going to put it together. And so I shopped to my stash and I've came up with these colors. Now, they call it making waves because they use blues in this. And there's some of the prints that I don't know if you can really see them. Let me see if I can blow it up for you. Yeah, this little print right down in here is a fish. And the other fabrics all suggest sort of the ocean theme. So I'm not doing that. I just went in and found some pretty fabrics. I'm doing it in teals and purples and blues, and there's some orange in there too. And if you notice, I have them already labeled because there was a chart inside the pattern showing you how to arrange your fabrics, moving from your lightest to your darkest. So although I don't really have maybe something that's really, really light, this is how I've organized my fabrics. I think it'll be really pretty when it's done. And you do want a certain amount of contrast in your colors, as you can see in this pattern, to give it the effect that you want. I think these will work. I think these will work out pretty well. But we'll see how this all goes together. But that's another project that when I get tired of working on little houses, I'll move over to this particular one. Okay, so that takes me to what I called this year in review. What have I accomplished in the last year, in 2021? Well, I keep a little journal, and when I'm finished a project, I write it down in my journal and the month and the year that I finished it in. And I got looking back at that journal, and believe it or not, I have completed 44 different projects. That's not single pieces. I completed more than that in single pieces, but this is projects. So like, for example, I may have made 8 placemats, but I count them as one project because they were the same design or whatever. So here's my breakdown. I did complete 23 quilts. I did 23 quilts in 1 year. I guess, well, people accuse me of being a fast sewer. I guess I am. I also completed 10 placemats, 5 table runners, 6 wall hangings. I should have put this in a song, like the 12 Days of Christmas. So 6 wall hangings, 2 bags, 2 banners, 12 table toppers, 12 freestanding lace gnomes, 3 pillow slips, and 2 Santa zippered pouches. I was a busy boy, was I not? Yeah. Some people say, how do you manage to find that much time in the day? Well, I have one word for that: retirement. I am retired. I don't have to worry about going to a job. I'm glad. With COVID, you got a lot of time at home. And so that's what I was doing with my time. And because I love it so much, I sew every day. There's very few days that slip by me where I'm not doing some sewing or something related to sewing. So yeah, I got 44 projects done. Now, what are my plans for 2022? Yeah, we all make plans at the first of the year, and sadly, we never get them finished or our plans change. But you want to know something? That's okay. I don't have a problem with changing my plans. Nothing is written in stone as far as I am concerned. They're all just, my lists of things I want to do are just suggestions. So what are those suggestions? Well, I have already listed the patterns I want to do. I put them in my planner, and I will probably revise these because actually I have to revise them now because you saw all the fabric that Santa, aka Walter, brought me or got me this year at Christmas time. So now what I want to do is examine those fabrics and decide which patterns I've already chosen that I may assign those fabrics to, or look through my stash of patterns or online and find what I will call fabric worthy patterns. Patterns that will really, work well with certain collections of fabric that I have now. So yeah, I'm going to be shopping my stash. Now, does that mean I'm not going to buy any more fabric in the next year? No, I'm going to buy more fabric. And my shelves are just a little bit getting full, but I can always make more room. I'll find more room for more fabric. But I am going to very much try to, shop my stash every opportunity I can and use up my scraps as well. But is this a resolution? No, it is not. And if you saw my vlog yesterday, you know why it's not a resolution, because I don't make resolutions. My resolution is to make no resolutions, because you want to know something? You break the rule anyways. And actually, just jumping ahead a little bit, if you have not seen it yet, but there'll be a link to it in the show notes, this week's Idiot Quilter Presents Musings is all about resolutions. So anyways, let's take a look at what else I have planned. I must finish up my UFOs. All I need to do is layer them, quilt them, and bind them. I think I have 4 left to do. And of course, now that I have Lucy, I can make short work of it. I'll say one thing about having a long arm. You think you're going to get through your projects quicker. I thought I was. I don't. I love working with Lucy, but Lucy has to be cleaned. I clean my Lucy and oiler and everything after every project. I'm following the maintenance guidelines by the company and what Tracy told us at Whirls and Swirls. And then you have to layer your quilt. Now, layering your quilt is so much easier on a long arm, but it still takes a little bit of time. And then away I go. I've really got to do stuff that's more free motion quilting, and that's something I want to do this year. I want to really, use my Lucy in the way it's intended. I've been doing a lot of pantographs. I got to jump the barrier and just go for, do something on a quilt, and it doesn't matter what it's going to look like. I'll give it a try. I do have one unfinished UFO out there sitting in the pile that needs to be quilted, which is just a scrappy quilt, and I think that would be a great one just to get my feet wet with free motion quilting. And that's what I may do with that. But to be really honest about it, the quilting part of the process, I don't hate it, but I'm a piecer. I'd rather piece and then move on. But having said that, I do love the fact that after you've quilted the quilt, and no matter what method you do and no matter what level you're at, it does put that extra dimension into a quilt that makes it truly a quilt. A quilt really doesn't look like anything until you've quilted it and bound it. And yeah, like everybody else, when you get to that stage of it, you're done. You want to move on and piece the next beautiful piece, right? So, but yeah, I've got that to do. I am planning, though, to make an investment in Quilt Path, which is the computerized component that goes on in my Lucy and essentially quilts the quilt for you. Now, purists are going to say, well, that's cheating. You're letting a machine do it. That's fine by me. I cheat all the time. I mean, technically, are we not cheating when we're using our sewing machines? We're not hand sewing the quilt. Well, for the most part, I know some people do because they enjoy hand quilting, and that's fine. But that's a machine. And can we live without our sewing machines? I think not. So it's not cheating. It's just the 21st century way of doing quilting. And if we have the technology, we should be using it. That's my philosophy anyways, and I'm sticking to it. So yes, it is a major investment. It's about $13,000. Okay, I'll Make no bones about it, it's expensive. Why can I afford to buy one? Well, I can't right now, but soon I will be able to. Now, this may be a little morbid, but you know that my mother passed away in November, and I am the executor of the will. And I made sure that my mother had enough money to keep her until she was 110 in the nursing home and pay all her bills and everything like that. Well, sadly, my mother was taken, as far as I was concerned, too soon. But now the estate has to be settled. And she wasn't a rich lady, but she was comfortable, mainly because we sold her house. And we sold it at a time when we got a really good price for it. And I invested some of her money because I did look after it and everything. And although I didn't make any major investments, it still brought in a little bit of income for her as well. So there is some money there. And when, probate gets done and all that stuff, and it's going to take a few more months for all of that, then I get my share of the inheritance. There's 3 of us, my brother and my sister and myself. And we all get the equal share of whatever's left after, the things you have to pay, probate taxes and all that stuff. And so it's a tidy little sum. And I've decided I'm going to take part of that tiny little sum and I'm going to buy me a Quilt Path. Yes. And then all hell's going to break loose on that. But yeah, so that's how I'm going to afford it. And I am going to have it this year. And I'm really excited about that. But as I said, it's going to take some while to get that. So I hope you don't think I'm a gold digger. It's my inheritance. I never thought I'd have an inheritance, actually. Not the way my parents... Well, that's a story for another day and not appropriate for right now. So we're moving on. Also, I would like to sort of focus a little bit more on trying my hand at making some art type quilts. When I say art type quilts, I mean, actually designing my own quilts that do not follow the rules of quilting. But then that's not hard for me because do I ever follow the rules? Not usually. So I would like to, though, experiment a little bit more in that. But as I said, these are all my plans. They are not resolutions. They're plans, and plans change. So, yeah. Okay. So, one thing, this takes me now to some demos and reviews right now. And I thought I'd share with you a book that I just recently purchased. Now, I was watching some of the older, the backlog of videos from this the quilt show. And there was a lady on there, her name was Kris Vierra, I guess. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, Vierra. And she had a really neat take on doing bindings on quilts and how to do borders and square everything up. And I really thought this was an interesting method, so I bought her book from Amazon. And I've got a little review of it to show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to put that right in here. So this week I thought I'd talk about a new book I just purchased. And it's called Stress-Free Quilting, Borders, Bindings, and More. It's in paperback format, and it is a fairly recent printing. It was available on Amazon as of August the 2nd, 2021, as you can see on the screen. I purchased this book after I saw the lady who wrote this book. I believe her name is Kris. Kris, what is it? Kris Vierra, Vierra. And she had some very unique and interesting ideas for how you can square up your quilts, how you can bind them, and how to do borders. And she had like how to do mitered borders and other fancier types of borders, ones that I'd never had really considered doing before. So after seeing her on the quilt show, I thought I would look into getting her book. And I did buy it. You can see that it's priced on Amazon.ca at $34.70, so it's not particularly cheap. And I haven't read it all the way through yet, but I have glanced through it and I've looked at a couple of things. And yes, I think this book is really well worth the effort because she talks about things that I have never done before, as I've already said, like blocking a quilt. That's basically where you pin it down to a flat surface and get everything straightened up and spritz it with water and let it dry and that kind of thing. Now, I have never, ever attempted something like that. But if I felt the need to, this book would be a great guide for that. So I think it's a very good book to have in your resource library. It's too bad it didn't come in an e-reader format, but nevertheless, it's still a good book. I'm looking forward to going through it and maybe trying some of her techniques as well. So I've put the links for this in the show notes below if you're interested. So I have read the book. It's really interesting. It's great. If you want to do mitered borders or mitered corners as well, or that kind of thing on your quilt, she's got a really clear explanation of that. And she does get into it a little bit with mathematics, but she has these formulas that you can adapt to whatever quilt needs you have. So it is a good book. It's well worth it. The only thing I don't like about the book is there's a whole section at the back about yoga. I don't know if she's a yoga instructor as well. And she has references to those pages throughout her explanations in the book for her techniques. And I guess it's, to limber yourself up to, we do get sore when we're sitting for long periods of time sewing and that kind of thing. And I think she had a couple of recipes in there too. It seemed to me a little bit like filler to get enough pages in this book so she could get it published or sell it on Amazon. I don't know. And that's my only real criticism of it. And I mean, if you're into yoga, well, bonus for you, I guess, if you get this book. So what else have I discovered or been doing? Well, this isn't really a discovery. This is something that's old because I've seen it on various YouTube channels, but I decided to give it a try. If you look behind me over here, you'll notice my fabrics are all sitting up very neat, very straight on my shelves. Well, you have noticed that from week to week as well. I store my fabric vertically, and many people do, and I fold it and put it in there, but it tends to be limp. So when you take out a couple of your fabric pieces and then you try to put them back in, you're kind of, trying to smooth out the creases, get it moved in there into the shelf. It's kind of a tight space, and the other ones are all flopping all over and everything. And very soon your shelf doesn't look that neat anymore. Well, I did see a method. I think it was Patty Mac Makes. I think that's what she calls her YouTube channel. I'm sure I've probably have reviewed it sometime in the past. She uses what's called comic book boards. Let's throw them up here on the screen. And you can buy these on Amazon, and they're not terribly expensive. I bought a 2-pack of 100 boards each. So I got 200 boards, and I think it cost me about $47 for that many. These are meant for people who are serious comic book collectors. They back their comic books with these and then put them in plastic bags, and they're all archivally safe, so they say. Now, it really depends on, who is putting that label on something like this, because there is no standard for archival quality in things. I know that from my days as a scrapbooker, but I don't really care. What I'm using them for is to give support to my fabric when it's sitting on the shelf. So you can see over to the right side of the screen, there's one of those comic book boards laid out on my fabric and ready for folding. And so all I do is I fold my fabric from salvage to salvage, and I fold it double. And that's approximately the size of one of these cards. And then I flip one end over with the raw edge, and I clip it. And I bought some of those clips from Amazon that you will find when you buy a shirt that's on a piece of cardboard, and they put these little clips in them, little alligator-like clips to hold the shirt to the board to keep it nice looking. And when you get it home, you spend half an hour trying to get all the clips out. Yeah, well, I bought, you can buy packages of 100 of them very inexpensively on Amazon. So I did. So I clip one there, and then I roll my fabric, keeping it nice and neat on the edges. And when I come near the end, I will fold the fabric over, and so that hides the raw edges on that end, and then fold it on top and clip it. And there I have a nice, neat package. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm putting my fabric on a bolt, but it's a smaller bolt. And then that goes onto my shelves. And there's all my fabric sitting up there very neatly and tidy. And what's the beauty of this is, now that they're a little bit stiffer, it's easier to pull the fabric out and then put it back on the shelf and keep everything nice and neat. So that is a method that I think I really like. In fact, I went through 200 of those cards. So you know how much fabric sitting on those two shelves. There's 200 pieces of fabric that are at least half a meter. Most of them are 1 to 2 meters, and few are larger than that, on my shelf. So yeah, I've got a lot of fabric. But I ordered another package of those comic book boards because I'm out, and more of the clips because I'm out of those. And they're arriving today, and those are for future expansion as well. And I cleaned up a lot of things. I had some fat quarters and things because they're pretty, the way they do up fat quarters and that in the bundles. And I had those sitting on those shelves in front of the fabric, but it was getting junky looking. So now I did some rearranging of my drawers underneath my cutting table, and found homes for those as well. And I can just pull out the drawer and see what I've got and go from there. So yeah, constantly redoing my sewing room. You know, now that I've been in here for about 6 months, you know, you're beginning to feel like, where should I put my things? Where are they most readily available for those things that I reach for all the time? So yeah, and sometimes when it's sort of like making lists of things. You have to be prepared to reorganize all the time until you get things exactly the way you want them. And you're always fine-tuning. So don't be afraid to do that, you know, in your sewing room. And I know that a lot of people, first of the year comes, and they go, I'm going to get into my sewing room and I'm going to clean it all up. I'm going to give it a thorough spring cleaning or whatever. I'm going to declutter. And there's tons of videos right now on YouTube. Just Get It Done Quilts with Karen Brown. She's doing a whole series on decluttering and reorganizing your stash and your sewing area and that thing, those kind of things. And everybody's doing that because New Year comes, everybody suddenly gets this spurt of energy. I need to do this kind of stuff, and I'm not going to let it get away from me. And guess what? Yeah, that mood, at least for me, leaves me very quickly. But who knows? Okay, so moving on then, we have the subscribers quilt of the week. This is from Patsy Wilkerson, and I'm going to insert
this week's subscribers quilts come from Patsy Wilkerson, and she writes, Stephen, here's the picture of my quilt I made in February of 2014. I took a class the instructor called Twisted Window Pane, which was her design. The ruler we used was called the Twist and Stitch by June Taylor. I quilted it on my Janome 9700. I think I really don't remember which machine I traded for my 15,000 in September 2014. She says also she forgot to add this quilt was made for my granddaughter for her 11th birthday. In fact, I gave all 4 of my grandchildren quilts for their birthdays that year. So it was a busy year. So here is the quilt in progress, and as she called it, it is the Twisted Window Pane. And in the second picture, we see why it's called that and how that works out. And it looks like she may have used, well, not necessarily, because she says the class she took was done by the designer of the quilt. Oh no, she used a ruler by June Taylor called the Twist and Stitch to create these. And this reminds me of the Little Twister ruler, which I have reviewed back a couple of episodes ago that I made some table runners with. But it is quite nice. I do like the pattern of it, and I am not a person that's fond of pink, but in this particular quilt, I think it works very well. And she was giving it to her granddaughter, so, you know, I guess, without sounding too sexist, that the colors are appropriate for a little girl. So this looks really nice, and let's just take a close-up look here if we can at the quilting. And it looks like she did free motion on here, and she did several different designs as well. So the whole thing just comes together so nicely, and I'm sure her granddaughter really loved it. So thank you, Patsy, for sharing that with us.
And that brings me to the YouTube channel of the week. And this week it is the YouTube channel that is entitled The Sewing Channel. Now, just a word of caution here. I do have the link for this channel in the show notes, but some time ago there was another channel called The Sewing Channel, the Sewing Room Channel, I mean. See how you can get them mixed up? And I reviewed that, back ages ago, and I still watch that one on a regular basis. But this one is different. It's called the Sewing Channel, not the Sewing Room Channel, the Sewing Channel. So here's my review.
This week's YouTube channel of the week is called the Sewing Channel. And this particular channel has a lot of great information for beginners, quilters, and sewers. And you can see here in the video list what they have. Best sewing machine table, making a star bow with fabric, best fitting slippers, Christmas tree collar, how to free motion quilt feathers, make a fast fat quarter quilt, etc. So lots of quick little videos here on all kinds of different topics. Now, I just discovered this channel, and it is called the Sewing Channel, not to be confused with the Sewing Room Channel, because that's something a little bit different. Also a good channel, however. But this one, I think I need to explore further, because there's a lot of really interesting topics here that I think will at least inspire me, or actually help me learn a few new techniques. So that's the Sewing Channel.
So that takes me to what's on my vision board, and it happens to be the pattern I've already started, the Little Town pattern by Chelsi Stratton. So I thought I'd talk about it in a little bit more detail.
This week's pattern from my vision board is one that I just recently bought, and I wish I had seen this a couple of months before Christmas, because I would more than likely have done this as a Christmas quilt. And it's called Little Town, and it's by Chelsi Stratton Designs. Now, Chelsi Stratton is the daughter to Sherry McConnell, who is from A Quilting Life, and you can check out their vlogs they have every other week on YouTube just by going searching for A Quilting Life. And this pattern really appealed to me because I like the little houses and the little Christmas trees and the whole bit. Now, I am thinking, however, even though this is a Christmas quilt, depending on the fabrics you pick for it, I think this could be a winter quilt, just, you know, as is. Or if you wanted to, it could just be a quilt with houses and trees. You could probably eliminate the stars on top of the trees if you thought that that made it too Christmassy in its look. But I think this would be very doable, and I think it's also very versatile, depending on the fabrics you pick. Now, it does say it's fat eighth friendly, as you can see here, and I think that's a good thing. Let's just go on here, see if they've got another picture. Yeah, they tell you what the materials are for this as well, but of course this is a design they want you to buy, and it's a PDF. It's in PDF format, so you can download it instantly after you've paid for it. So yeah, I think it's one that I do want to do, and whether I do it strictly as a Christmas quilt or if I do it as a winter quilt, that's to be seen. You can get it at the Fat Quarter Shop online, but if you do a search, she has an Etsy store online as well, and you can pick it up there. Actually, I think it's a little bit more pricey, a couple of dollars more on her Etsy store than it is from a place like Fat Quarter Shop. But as I said, it is a downloadable pattern, so you don't have to wait for it. You don't have to pay shipping on it. So that's what's on my vision board, and I'm kind of looking forward to getting started on this one. It might be the next quilt I work on. We'll see. And in this spot now, I usually talk about my Idiot Quilter Presents. I do not have any interviews. Again, I'm calling out there. I'm asking for, if you'd like to be interviewed, don't be shy. Let me know and we'll set it up. It's painless, and don't feel that you have to be somebody special. I don't want the special people. I want the ordinary everyday quilters like me. So, let me know. My email address is in the show notes below. So instead of an interview, I have another one of my musings. Yeah, I'm threatening you. If I don't have the interviews, you're going to have to listen to me. And this week, I want to talk a little bit about, well, it's already up, about resolutions and why I don't make resolutions, and why resolutions, I feel, can be harmful to your well-being. So that's what's on the Idiot Quilter Presents this week. All right, let's go down to one of my projects from the past that I'm going to criticize. And this was a table runner. It was a Dresden style table runner that was done on my embroidery machine. This week's quilt of my own that I'm going to critique is not a quilt, but a table runner. And this was an embroidered table runner. And I did it all in the hoop on my embroidery machine. Now, this one did take quite a long time to do. It is a combination of some applique, but most of it is embroidered. So if you look at one of these squares, and this is called a Dresden pattern. Let me get up a little bit closer here. You can see the intricacy of the embroidery that happens in each one of these pieces. You laid down a piece of fabric in between the lines that the machine will stitch out for you as a guide, and then it does all the rest of this. And I chose to do this in a monochromatic color scheme, a black and white, because I thought it would look a little bit more elegant for my dining room table. And that's where it sits most of the time, unless I switch it out for another table runner for the season. Now, as far as quilting is concerned, that was built into the files as well, as you can see here along the edges. So you do not have quilting that goes all the way through to the other side of this. But because it's a table runner and I wasn't making it reversible, that was not a problem for me. Now, if that is a problem, though, for you, if you want to see the quilting on your backing fabric, then you can do this as a quilt as you go. Make each block already layered and then hinge them together. And I think in this case, in this design, that would be fairly easy to do, because I added these sashing strips here and took another program and added this little detail in between on each piece of sashing. Then, of course, I just put borders around it and bound it, and I don't think I even quilted the binding, or not the binding, but the border itself. No, I did not. Well, this was early in my beginnings with machine embroidery, so that's probably why I didn't do it. But I might make another one of these in different colors. This would look really nice in sort of a summer or springy type colors, that kind of thing. It would really, could be made very, very colorful. But that's the quilt or the table runner, I should say, that I want to critique this week. And I'm very proud of how it turned out. And I really don't have any major criticisms of how I did this. It worked out. That's always nice. And that takes us to the online quilt store of the week. And the one I'm going to talk about today is called Studio 39 Fabrics. I have never ordered from them, so I base my review solely on what I see on their website. So here's my review of this week's online quilt store is called Studio 39 Fabrics, and they're located out in, you guessed it, Alberta, Canada. All the fabric stores seem to be in Alberta for some reason. But anyways, I have never dealt with this particular store. I've never ordered anything from them. And in fact, this is my first time visiting their webpage. So let's share this together, what we find. Here's the first page. And they have right off the bat to say they have over 100 Kona solids in stock. Okay, good to know. It looks like they have art gallery fabrics in Christmas. Patchy Pumpkin Farm. It's a quilt kit. Solids. Oops. Okay, so we've got a pop-up here for the newsletter. That's pretty typical. They have some of their pre-cuts shown here as well. And how to order fabric online. Their fabric is sold in quarter yards. Okay, not in meters. I hate that. We're Canadian. You know my feelings about that. Need 2 yards for a project, no problem. Simply enter 8 units. So they do sell in quarter yards. All right, fine. Need supplies. Okay, they have a quick menu of their notions and blenders. They put blenders under supplies instead of fabric. Well, maybe. Okay, so let's get into the nitty gritty. Shop all fabric. Okay, they have it by manufacturer and they have it by style. So let's go to Robert Kaufman. Okay, here we are. And they are not telling us how many we have in this section. All right. Remember, their prices are a quarter of a meter of a yard. So let's see, $4.39, $4.50, $4, $4.39, $4.39. Into the bolt blue, that's a sale. $4.39. Okay, their prices are a little bit all over the place. Kind of nickeling and diming. When I see something that ends in like $4.39 or $2.25, you know, why can't we have it more of a round number? But that's just me. So let's take, it looks like $4.39 is very, very popular on average price. So $4.39, I'm just plugging this into my calculator, times 4 equals $17.56 a yard. Middle of the road pricing. That's maybe a little bit on the lower side, so that's not bad. Now, it looks like their prices do vary according to what it is that you might be interested in. Let's go to like Andover Fabrics, for example. Let's see what our price range is on that. They're having a sale. Okay, sale's pretty good if you like those fabrics. Well, let's find what would be considered their regular price. Well, it looks like all their Andovers are on sale right now. So I'm wondering if they are getting out of that line and they're getting rid of it. Yeah, it's all on sale. Okay. If you're into Andover fabrics, any of these are grabbing you. Those prices aren't bad. $2.50 a quarter, so that's that's $10 a yard. That's pretty good. Let's look at, these are collections. Okay. Well, let's just pick one other just for the sake, I don't know. Let's look at Northcott because, all right. Northcott. Okay. And this is taking a bit to load up here. All right. So Northcott suddenly didn't come up. All right. So I'm having a little problem with their interface. Might be my computer. Okay, here we go. Northcott. I love Northcott fabrics. Okay, so solids are pretty reasonable. $2.05. That's pretty good. $2.65. What else do they offer though, besides solids? Yeah, it looks to me like all of their Northcotts are like solids or ones that read as like solids. Well, that kind of disappoints me. Now I'm just wondering if that's really what they deal in. Let's go to Art Gallery Fabrics. Let's see. Okay, we got some prints here. Prices are okay. I'll say that. When you multiply those by 4, they're not bad. Some are better than others. Okay. looking at their selection of fabrics, they list a lot of names here, like Liberty. Ooh, the Liberty are not a bad price because $275. What's that? That's under $12 a yard. That's not bad. That's not bad really at all. If you're into Liberty fabrics, because I know Liberty fabrics can be very expensive. Okay, so they've got, not a bad selection of fabrics, I guess. Aurifil batting. Let's see what they're charging for batting. They have no products in that collection. Okay. All right, they had a Black Friday sale. All right, that's a bit old. So not really keeping up on their website all that well. So that doesn't give me a good feeling. And they do not have, by the looks of things, I could not find anything that said they had a brick and mortar store. So this is all online, and it looks like it's very much family run, which is fine, except, when I see things that are at sale, I don't see the best selection of fabrics. And when you get something like this hasn't been updated yet. Black Friday was a while. I mean, that's still going on. Let's just click on it and see if it is. Well, maybe. They do have bundles. I'm looking at what they're just showing in the pictures, and a lot of these are fabrics that don't appeal to me, but they might appeal to other people, of course, to each his own. Okay, what else should we check out? Let's check out patterns. Excuse me, I had sneezes there. Okay, the Kimberbell Canada bench pillow pattern, and another one, just two. Well, excuse me. The fabric's making me sneeze. I'm not so impressed there by what they have to offer. Okay, let's check out their notions. Scissors. Rotary cutters, storage boxes, more rotary cutters. Yeah, really don't have a great selection of notions. No rulers. Thread. Let's check out thread. Aurifil, 50 weight. Okay, $13.39. That's not bad. I pay about $14.99, I think, out here. So in my area. So that's okay. But again, not a lot to choose from. So this makes me think that, okay, this is a very small mom and pop online business. So they probably don't have the buying power that other people have. Cross stitch, they have some cross stitch and hand stitching. What do they offer here? Okay, so they've got embroidery floss, some scissors, a pattern. Yeah, not a great deal of selection on this either. Okay, so let's take a look at shipping, if we can find that. Well, there's a blurb about the owner. Let's check this out. Studio 39 Fabrics is my love and my dream. I started my shop in 2016 while working a full-time day job filling orders at night. I still do. I answer as many messages as I can on breaks and during the workday. I have always dreamt of having my own shop, and I love opportunities it gives me to be creative, solve problems, meet wonderful people, and of course play with beautiful fabric. I'm a wife, mama, and granny, and my hope is one day I'll be able to run my shop for a living and prioritize my family at the same time. My husband, kids all help out as their time and talents allow. I couldn't do this without them. Okay, this is what I call one step up from having an Etsy store. This lady is doing it out of her house. Sounds like she has a full-time job or another job as well. and she's hoping to make this her full-time job. And yeah, it's a very small family, sort of everybody helps out business, which is all fine. You got to start somewhere, I guess. She says, I still do a happy dance, even if it's only in my head, and whisper a word of thanks every time an order comes in. That excitement never gets old for me. Your fabric is then lovingly cut, folded, and packaged on beautiful prairies of southern Alberta, Canada. Okay, pull up the customer's heartstrings is the method being used here. You know, the idea you're getting personalized service, and she cares about every customer, and she's really grateful, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, that's fine. But as a consumer, finding this on the web at random, and never having dealt with them before, it makes me feel like, oh yeah, I should support you. But on the other hand, I have had bad experiences with little companies like this before where they get just overwhelmed and it takes forever to get what you want. I'm not saying this is the way she is. I'm just saying that this is the flavor that I'm getting here from my past experiences with other small, very small, one step up from an Etsy shop type of online store. I know maybe you think I'm being cruel when I say that. I don't mean to be cruel. I'm just saying what my gut reaction is. I'm committed to treating each customer and every order with kindness, care, and respect. Those are the values I live by and hope to convey through how I run my business. If you have any questions, email me back. I don't like it when businesses get this personal. It's a business relationship I'm going to have with them, not a personal relationship. And yeah. So what's their shipping policy? Shipping and returns. Here we go. See what she is charging. They're committed to keeping our mailing costs as low as possible. Standards to have your orders in the mail within 3 business days, as time might be longer when volumes are high during big sales or other promotions. Your purchase will be sent by Canada Post. Yeah, okay. During peak season. Yes. Speed shipping be arranged required. Okay. Order value up to $199.99, $12.95. Okay, so it's a flat rate. That's pretty good. And it's free over 200. Okay. So she says that she will ship to the US. And it's expedited. Package service includes trackings for $16.95 Canadian. That's not too bad. Now, unfortunately, a prohibitive shipping cost does not allow us to establish a single bulk rate for international shipping. Okay, so she will do international shipping, but she's saying it's going to cost you. She does have some insurance, additional insurance. Okay, and she's got a fairly detailed explanation about returns and problems and things like that. So okay, I don't think her shipping prices are that bad, but looking at what she has to offer, I think I might be hard pressed to get enough up there to get free shipping. Oh, she does have wide back fabrics. So let's take a look at that. I'm always interested in wide back fabric. And her pre-cuts. I didn't check out her pre-cuts, but let's check out the wide back fabric first of all, just to see what the price is like. So $8.59 for a half yard. So that's about $36, $37, $38 for a yard. That's expensive. Now, some is a little cheaper, but she really doesn't have that much to choose from. Okay. And I want to also just check quickly her pre-cuts, which I'm anticipating there's not going to be a big selection here either, just because of the size of her business. And let's see here. Long rise chain. Well, yeah. The selection, not that great. But it's what I expected with her being a small company. Okay, so overall, I don't think I'll be ordering anything from her because I just feel that, well, there's not a lot here that really was grabbing me, but maybe it would grab you. Prices are middle ground. They're not too good, they're not too bad. And her shipping is very good price as well. So, if you want to support a very small little business, that's a mom and pop kind of thing online, then you know, and I think especially if you lived out in Alberta, this might be more attractive to you than for somebody like me who lives, you know, several provinces away. So yeah, check out Studio 39 at Fabrics and see if there's something there that grabs you.
So that brings us to the end of this week's episode of the Idiot Quilter, but I do want to give you a reminder. Tomorrow, January the 5th, 2022, is the first Wednesday of the month, and on the first Wednesday of the month, we have Craft and Chat. And many of you know what that's all about. For those of you that might be new to my channel, I run this once a month, as I said, on the first Wednesday of the month. It's a Zoom. We get together and work on whatever we want to work on: quilting, sewing, knitting, crocheting, paper crafting, scrapbooking, you name it, whatever. And we just share what we're working on. Nothing is done in a formal way. It's just a group of friends getting together, like we were physically at a retreat sort of a thing, and working on whatever we're working on. It's very inspiring. I find there's a lot of energy, so I get a lot done. And I learn a lot of things too from other people because we share ideas. So if you're interested in that, just click on the link in the show notes for Craft and Chat. It is Zoom, as I mentioned, and it begins at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, my time, and runs till about 4 p.m. And we just get together and have a good time. So all are welcome. So don't be shy. We don't bite. I have my regulars, and I like to call them my friends now because that's how regular they've become. And yeah, so that's all in the show notes below for you. Okay, so that's it for me today, and I hope you have a great week. I hope you get something done. I hope that you are inspired with the coming of the new year to, you know, get out there and have a little fun in your sewing room. And we'll see you next week. So bye for now.